Hello, you're watching CGTN live stream. Welcome to APEC Talks. This is special coverage of CGTN on APEC, which is being held in Bangkok, Thailand. And now we are at the venue of the CEO Summit, which will conclude today. And today we are going to talk about a color. Green development and green economy. And for more of this, I'm very pleased to be joined by two guests today. Ms. Katia Indaravijaya, CEO of K-Bank in Thailand.
Hi.
Welcome, Ms. Katia. And also Mr. Paul Gilding, Fellow of CISL, or the University of Cambridge Institute for Sustainable Leadership. Welcome, Paul. Well, let's start with you, Katia, because Thailand is hosting this year's CEO Summit. Let's start with you. You know, your bank, K-Bank, is the second largest bank in Thailand. Can you tell us something about K-Bank, what your bank has been working on recently?
Yes, sustainability is one of our, is the most priority of us. You can see, like in our strategy map, the Bank of Sustainability is at the very top, and you know we communicate and encourage the staff to whatever they do, they have to think sustainability. Mm-hmm. And we are the first Thai commercial bank who signed the UN Principle for Responsible Banking, and we are the first and the only Thai bank who the bank that was included in the DJSI index for 6 consecutive years. And our goals for the climate change and the net zero in 2030, in our own operation we will be net zero. And also in 2065, 100% of our loan portfolio will be net zero, in line with the aspiration of Thailand.
It seems that your bank carries a great responsibility in this field, right?
Yes, it's a challenging job, but we know that it takes a lot of effort and the cooperation among the ecosystem. You know, the customer, the bank, the regulators, and everyone is still a lot of challenges.
Yes, and Paul, you are an expert in this field of climate change, the studies, right? Yeah. Tell me about your project. What studies are you on recently?
Yeah, I think I'm particularly focused in recent years on the issue that sustainability is fundamentally an economic change. Yeah, we think about it, responsibility, the future, and so on, all of which is true. But at the end, this is about changing our industry, changing our businesses, changing our technology with the support of the financial institutions. Yes. And so that's an economic change. So I've been studying how does that actually work? What other examples in history where we made a big economic change, and how does that translate into the economy in a practical way? And the lesson I learned quickly is that it tends to be put off and delayed as long as possible, and then happens very quickly. Right, so we're not always ready for the suddenness of the change when it comes. So for climate change, we've been talking for 30 or 40 years about the issue, and what I see now is rapid economic change happening already in energy, and I think next in food.
Yes, I think I found the right people to talk about this topic today. You know, at this year's CEO Summit, as well as the leaders meeting at the venue, for example, at the media center, I saw some of the elements that is very related to the carbon, the concept. For example, some tables and chairs are made of cardboards. And also, you know, when we register at the reception, every recruiter will get a gift. Actually, it's a cup made of recycled material, something like that. And through this, what kind of concept, what kind of signal do you think APEC is trying to convey to these attendees, media, and participants?
I think a lot of change happens, first of all, in the symbolic things, right? So it's not really important, the cup or the paper or the chairs, whatever, but it makes us think, and that's a good thing. Yeah. So we think, okay, so this can be done differently. Now, who's making the chair? Who's making the cup? You know, is it recyclable? Is it circular? Is it biological? So it makes us think about the issues. Now, then we need to move on to the bigger, more complicated questions about the energy supply and the food supply. But it's not bad to start with those symbolic things.
And what about you, Katia?
Yes, I think it's a very good start. And since Thailand is very passionate on this kind of thing, I just want to share you that in June this year, there's a global summit of women, the event. We also in Thailand we got the certificate, of the carbon neutrality event from the greenhouse effect organization also. So it's a very good start, but there's a lot more to go.
Yes, actually, it is a very good reminder. Otherwise, I won't be, it won't be occur to my mind so suddenly. Oh wow, it's a very eco-friendly, low carbon economy that we're promoting this time.
And also reminds us all of my point that this is an economic change.
Yes.
Right. So if you want to stop climate change or act on sustainability, you have to have new products, and very often new products is new businesses.
Yes.
And different ways of financing businesses, and the role of the finance sector is very important in that process.
Very interesting. And also, during this year's APEC Summit, we have very busy schedule. Every day, according to the official agenda, we have at least 8 sessions every day, and we have a 2-day, very demanding and tight schedules. And and today is the conclusion day. And according to your observation, is there any topic or what kind of discussions that you think is worth attention for us in this green development?
I think as overall, I think it's, this event raised the awareness of a lot of people, and also we also aware that we need a lot of collaboration, and we also aware that there's in going towards this the target, the development from different countries is uneven. It's different. So but to my feeling, everyone try their best. But I think we can do more, and it will be even more possible if we do it together.
I think also I was very influenced by Katia's session just now about gender equality.
You heard her speech, right?
I heard her speech, and very important, because sustainability is not just the environmental issue. It is also about equality, equality of opportunity, and therefore I think women play a particularly important role in a different style of management, different way of seeing the world, and I think that's one of the arguments that Katia in the session discussed there was if we have a broader, diversified leadership in politics, in companies, then you get better decision making. And I think that's a really important idea.
So really, because when we look at the session, it seems that they are isolated. They're different topics, but you look at it from a bigger picture, actually they are all related to each other. That is why we are here, and we need 2 days full of agendas to talk about this, right? And talking about this, the APEC has 2 major events of APEC. The first is the APEC Summit, which we are at, and the second one is the APEC Leaders Meeting, which opens this morning. And just on that, the Chinese president also made a speech at the opening session of that, and the speech was entitled "Shouldering Responsibility and Working Together in Solidarity to Build an Asia-Pacific Community with a Shared Future." And actually, he proposed 4 suggestions, and I noticed that there is one. He specifically talked about the green development. He said that we should always strive for green and low carbon development and ensure a clean and beautiful Asia Pacific. And he also mentions through what methods can we achieve that goal. He said that we need to enhance economic and technological cooperation, speed up coordinated digital and green development, advance the transition, upgrading of energy, resources, and industrial and consumption structures, something like that. Paul, how do you think of this?
Look, I think there's many issues in that comment there.
Yes.
I mean, so let's just go through a few of them. First of all, cooperation is very important between countries. So openness to trade, openness to ideas, spreading information and technologies around is very important. But also, to my point, it's an economic opportunity, right? So for Asia, Indo-Pacific, the whole region is where most people in the world live, right? And that is the opportunity to get it right. And that's a big economic opportunity. So yes, we should be doing the right thing for society, and we should be cooperating between countries. But for individual countries, there is an opportunity to really lead the area. I think Thailand is doing some really interesting work here. Right? And I think there's really a lot of space there for new ways of doing things. And I think as the that powers in the world move and power shifts between regions, that's also a reality, is that those countries that are growing fastest also have the biggest opportunity to have environmental impact. In the West, countries where I come from, Australia, America and so on, then you have a lot of inbuilt assets and infrastructure, and that's quite hard to change the old infrastructure. If you're building new technologies, new factories, new transport systems, then you can do things in a different way. And that's not like an obligation that costs more, that's an opportunity to build those new industries.
Exactly, Paul, you talk about new opportunities. And Katia, from your perspective, what kind of opportunities can Thailand have in the future in terms of green economy?
First, I want to, I couldn't agree more with what the China president just mentioned. And I think that China is the leaders, the big brothers in this area in Asia, because I look at the number, the finance, the bonds or whatever finance that issue for the green bond or the for climate change usually issue in Western Europe, North America and Asia, just only for Chinese that's an investor, and usually is issue and spend in that country. So that it will be great. It will be great as a as a developed country or the leader who has a good technology advancement, technology developments, or the national policy or regulatory framework has that already set, be shared, to the emerging market. And for this opportunity, we will as there's two things, the responsible one, and also there's a business opportunity, really, because we can see from the a lot of international meeting, there's a lot of fintech or startup addressing this issue, and there will be more and more. So we can see that, there will be a lot of opportunity there. And I think Thailand entrepreneur and also the large corporate are ready to grab this opportunity.
I can't agree more, because as Chinese President Xi Jinping said, when we are promoting the green economy, that means we're going to put forward some new projects that will be used, for example, technological innovation and upgrading of industrial chains or something like that. And that means we will have more investments and we will need more labor. We will create more job opportunities, right? That's exactly what you were talking about just now.
Exactly. And so if you want to more quickly grow an economy in this context, then you want entrepreneurship with new ideas, new energy, new investment, drawing to the region and so on. That's a very powerful opportunity to build the economy and to encourage the right kind of growth.
Yes. Then let me get back to you, Katia, because the concept of the green economy in Thailand, I know that you have a project called BCG economy, that is bio, circular and green economy. And can you tell us more about that, and how does your company, the K-Bank, is getting involved in this?
Yes, it's a national policy, and that everyone willing to align to that direction. And for example, for K-Bank, we already set aside $2 billion for any entrepreneur who wants to adapt to that BCG. So that's a quite huge amount of money within 2 and 3 years. However, there's still a challenge. We don't know what exactly the benchmark or the standard that we have to meet. So we in additional, we have to work with the government or the regulator to set up that taxonomy, on what the BCG level, that we can call it the real BCG. It cannot be like greenwashing or whatever. And the other challenge that we have is the speed. If we want to do it too fast, the energy stability that we have to concern, or the readiness of the technology that we are in the emerging market. We need a lot more. So that's a thing.
Yes.
I think also on that, there are some things we have to be learn better how to do, like the energy system changing is a complicated thing.
Yes.
There's some things that are just like obvious we should do, like electric cars. So electric cars, they're cheaper to run, they're cheaper to maintain, they're less polluting of lung pollution as well as for CO2. So there's a lot of opportunities there, I think, and I think especially Asia generally, but China in particular, has so much opportunity to drive that change. It's such a big market, right? And we've learnt that with electric cars and China already,
Yes.
is that is such a powerful opportunity. That's not just good for China,
Yeah.
that's good for the whole world.
Yes.
Because once you take those technologies to scale, like China did with solar power, solar panels got very cheap because China was producing so many.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a really powerful idea, I think.
Yeah, talking about that, let me give you more data in that. You know, in China, we have over 10 million new energy cars on the streets of China, and that accounts for over half of the global total amount. And also, you know, China's largest new energy cars manufacturer, that's called BYD. You have heard of this name, right? And BYD has invested in Thailand to open a production plant, and that is the biggest investment so far for the BYD overseas. So, Katia, have you got any knowledge of this? Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I just talked to the lady, Kunjaripon, who's the owner of that industrial park, where BYD will you know, set up the manufacturing there. As a Thai people, we are so proud, and that you select Thailand as your production base outside China, and you know, not, you know, I have to say it's not because I'm the Thai people, but I think it's a good move. Why? Because Thailand has. I think we are ready as a electric car. The entire ecosystem is ready. For example, all the spare parts, all the tires, you know, it's the best quality in the world that we are available here, and also the skilled staff, you know, because we are already produce a lot of cars. It's not the EV car, but you know, I think at least half of it can be, you know,
it's on the transition, right?
Yes, yes, and also the Thailand itself have a domestic demand, the large domestic demand, and because of Thailand location, it's a very good for the logistic, you know, for you to export, for BYD to export to any other country. So I heard that there's like 150,000 cars will be produced just for the ASEAN market from BYD. So I think it's a very good move, and there will be a lot of you know, supplier in the supply chain who move there, and it will be all the EV parts, you know, will be there. So we are so
looking
excited.
Forward.
We're looking forward to this to happen.
Also, I think though, the other thing I would say on top of that is that it's very good way to communicate to the people of Thailand and Asia that this is my argument, is an economic opportunity. So for many people still, environmental issues, green development is what we should do. It's like an obligation, like a responsibility to the future, which of course is true. But if you also see jobs, right, if you also see new technology being developed, new parks being built, people investing in Thailand because of green development, that says to the people of Thailand, okay, this is an opportunity. And that mental change is really important. Everyone cares about the future, but they feel as though it's been a sacrifice to do it right. And what this says is, no, there's an opportunity to do it right. The business is better,
it would change the shape in the future of this industry.
A lot more jobs will be created, and I agree. And you have to enter to this as a new mindset, as a game changer mindset. And when you do that, and you have to prepare yourself to scale. You know, when you success, you have to have a scale and a cost advantage. So it's all real business.
And I heard that in Thailand, in Bangkok, and there are already some taxis. They are new energy vehicles. I don't know whether that's true, but you know, when we after my coverage of this event, I would definitely, you know, pumping a jacket, taxi, you know, having a round, putting around and city to take a look, right? And let's talk about some of the projects that is more relevant to your work and to your beat. For example, Paul, tell me what you have been working on recently. Any interesting projects that you've been working on?
No, I think a lot of people talk about climate change. They talk about energy, food, food is not on the agenda for climate change so much. Everyone talks about energy, electric cars, getting rid of coal, etc. All that's good. I think food is my focus now, because food, I think, is the next big thing. Right, big thing, because food production, in particular livestock, animal agriculture, generates a lot of methane, which is a big driver of climate change, but also food is a victim of climate change, right? So I sort of see that we have this sort of intersection as both a cause of climate change and a victim of climate change, that we have an unstable food system. And that's a very important issue in Asia, because if you take away a stable food supply, then you take away stability.
Because, I'm not an expert, so when we talk about food, for example, the first thing that popped into my mind is agriculture.
Yes.
I would never relate that to green economy. But since you explain that, I can see that, okay, food and livestock, they are a very important part of the whole chain, right?
No, correct. And both, because if the climate changes, the floods in Pakistan, for example, has a big impact on food production.
Yes.
That generates refugees, that generates conflict between countries. But also, that's one problem. But the second problem is the livestock causes climate change, right? The emissions of methane and so on. Now, there are good technologies, there is exciting new areas of opportunity in that area to reduce the methane emissions from the livestock, but also new production processes for different types of food, and also changes in diet, less beef, more pork, less pork, more chicken, less chicken, more fish. Like, moving down the chain is really important as well.
And Katia, what about your bank, K-Bank?
As I mentioned, in 2065, our entire loan portfolio will be the net zero. So we have to start now, and we already sequenced the plan, to which industry we can go first. So we set the first one is like no regret industry, which is like coal or power generation, and then sequence it in to that 2065. That's one thing, and we have to raise awareness to our customers. For example, is our glide path that we will stop lending to the coal power generation. I think within this year. So is have to work with the customers. So that's one thing, and also the other is we have a project. We lend to the rooftop, the house. We grant the housing loan, and then they get the solar rooftop at the top, and then they
solar rooftop to use the solar energy, right?
Yeah, so they can sell the energy to the electrical generating authority back. So whenever there's the surplus, then the power go back to the entire system. And that's also the EV bike that we have a project.
Really?
So the issue is a chicken and egg. People will not buy EV bike until you have a battery charging station or battery swap station. So we create the battery charging swap or charging station. So the sales of the EV bike can be increased, and we work with the different brand. So because the battery is still different. So if we create that EV charging station or battery swap, the entire ecosystem will move also. So that's a thing.
Also on that, I think the other issue which I'm excited about is the role of digital technology to connect all those things together. Right? If you have the right digital technology and software, then you can say, okay, well, I can have solar on my rooftop in my house, and I can charge my car from my solar. Right? Or you can use your car to some of the technology coming now. You plug the car into the grid, and the utility can then take power from the car to power the grid. Right. So but you can't have that integration.
That is circular economy, I think.
Right. But also the digital technology is the enabler of that, and that's also an opportunity for investment in that area.
And we have a mobile apps that the motorcyclists can find where is the EV. So that's
is a motorcyclist the hailing app or?
And
also where you charge, and how much charge do I need to get somewhere else?
Helping to locate the chargers.
All that, and that's where the apps and the technology is so important to the integration of that together.
Yeah, so that's what we do beyond banking service. So we have two roles, as a member of the community that we have to do the scope 1 and 2 to be net zero, but the other role is to be we are the financial service provider who enable anyone, to be the net zero.
And Katia, you just mentioned about the carbon strategy of Thailand. Actually, in China, we have a similar target as well. In China, China will strive to peak carbon dioxide emissions before 2030, and then achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. We only have 30 years before the peak and to the zero. So, Chinese President Xi said it was a really tough task for us, actually. And Paul, you're an expert of this. Can you tell me, because she says the carbon neutrality this time, the 30 years, is much shorter than what it might take to many developed countries, that China as the biggest developing countries. And how do you comment on China's efforts?
Look, I think China has played a really positive role in setting targets and setting limits and putting dates that this will change by. But I also look at the study that I do in economics is that we tend to think things are very difficult and then we put a target in place and then the critical mass of technology in business happens we get there faster, right? And China has so far achieved its targets ahead of time, right? And so I think we should recognise that the way economies change, and that's all the history, the research that I do, is that we get to a tipping point where it becomes like, obviously we'll do it now because it's cheaper, right? So I think we have to get away from the mindset that it's difficult and expensive, and it's difficult and expensive to start, for sure.
Yes.
But then you get to a certain pace, it becomes easier to do it than not to do it. So now, in many countries, solar and wind and batteries, electric cars, we're doing it because it's cheaper, right? Not because it's a moral obligation.
Yeah.
And that's where I think China setting a target is really important. But we should recognise that that process sort of becomes self-fulfilling. Once you start to do it, it makes it easier and easier, and then it becomes the market becomes the driver of the change and accelerating it.
Indeed, we have a lot to do, especially for China. That's why we also proposed what's called a global development initiative, and actually that is also mentioned in President Xi's speech this morning. He said that initiative, we call it GDI. It called for enhanced cooperation in many areas, for example, food, energy, we just talked about that, health, poverty reduction, and urgent implementation of the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So how do you think this China's initiative can provide more opportunities, more economic opportunities in this region? Katia?
It's a very inspirational target, and because it's China, I believe that you can do it. And it has.
You see China as a good friend, right?
and because we also look at China as the benchmark also, that how you do it or how you set the target. So that's what we think that is that can possible. It can be possible.
I think the other benefit of China is the size of the market is very large, but also the ability to think longer term, right? So some of the new technologies that we need in food, for example, fermentation of food, fermentation of protein, cultivated meats. There's all interesting new technologies that are coming that will produce meat and protein in a different way. Now, some of those are quite long term. I don't mean 50 years, but I mean 5, 10, 15 years. And China has a history of being able to think about the bigger picture, right, and really contribute in a way that some countries can't. And I think it's very clear to me that to address sustainability, we need quite strong government, right? That the market by itself will not do this. The market will respond once we set the targets, but you need actually quite a strong state apparatus and quite a strong policy position to actually put the limits in place that the market will then deliver on. So the market left to its own won't do things that don't benefit the companies. But if the state, if the government says, no, we have to achieve this target, now you need to go and achieve it, then it works. But you need to have a strong state, and that's what I think Asia generally, not just China, but Thailand as well, having a culture whereby we respect the government and the government plays an important role in guiding the market is actually really important for the future.
Yeah, and just to add on that, since China is a large market, we can view as a customer who buy our products. And when you enforce this, that the product you buy will be net zero or some kind of a sustainable index, whatever all kind. So the one who sell it to you have to improve. It's automatically has to directly improve our production line, and all the raw material, all the supply chain has to change. So that's another force that as kind of ecosystem has to work together. Customers, the entrepreneur or the enterprise, the bank, and the regulator has to work together.
Yes, and my question to you, Paul, do you see China as a game changer in this industry in green development or green economy?
So I think it could be. It has been already on solar, on energy. No question China was a game changer. Now I'm looking to see who will be the game changer on food. Like China has an enormous need for a stable supply of food, and has invested a lot of money around the world in agricultural land, in access to food and so on. Obviously that's a good thing to do. Now the next thing is we have these new technologies coming in food production. Right, so China, which has already been a game changer on energy and on solar, could also be a game changer on food. And that's really important because we do face a climate emergency while we're running out of time. And when you run out of time, then methane becomes the issue that you really need to focus on. Methane gas, not just CO2. Now to address methane, we have to address animal agriculture and food, in which case China could, as I said, invest in the longer term and really be a leader in that area as well. And that's what we're not seeing yet anywhere in the world, not just China, but no one's doing that very well yet. No one has the urgency around that, but it's such an important issue for stability. As we've seen with the war in Ukraine, once we interrupt the flow of grain, the potential for a global food crisis becomes very immediate. Right, so we need to diversify our approaches, diversify our technologies, diversify our food supply and make it more stable. And I think China could play a really positive role in that area.
And my last question to both of you, since the APEC Summit will conclude today, and what are your expectations? I mean, in further development, what areas do you expect that we can achieve, progress more in the future? Paul?
Yeah, I think the thing that I've perhaps taken most from this whole APEC CEO Summit is, and also the APEC political leaders conversation, is that it sends a message to the market that the future is sustainability.
Yes.
Right. So whether it was the president of Vietnam or the president of France, they all talked about this issue that sustainability, climate change is going to define our future. So then the business leaders here go away and say, oh, okay, well that's where we're going now, right? So they need to start to invest more seriously, and that I think is a very important message for a conference like this.
What about you, Katia?
After listen to all the sessions, I think it's the words ESG, environmental, social, and governance. It has to come together because like gender equity or the green or the climate change, I think we can combine, and it's all have to execute in the governance manner, that very disciplined and very systematic ways. And so I think the ESG have to come together in order to make it to another level. And also we have to do it together. For example, like China can is a very possibility, that a high possibility for China to be the leader. However, you cannot go, China cannot go alone. It has to come with
we need cooperation.
Yes, we need cooperation to do it together in order to move the needle, to move it forward in sustainable ways.
Let's just do it together.
Yes.
Okay, now thank you so much for coming. Thank you again, Ms. Katia, CEO of K-Bank, and Paul from CISL, the University of Cambridge Institute for Sustainability Leadership. Thank you for coming, and this is the end of this live stream, and we are here, CGTN, we are here in Thailand to cover the APEC for you. Please stay tuned in other of our coverage, and bye for now.